Hi everyone. And now on to today's program. Today we are going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, unsung heroes of history. There are many great Americans who have done wonderful things for our country and for humanity, who are virtually unknown outside their immediate field of endeavor. Today, we will explore a few of these forgotten voices and try to determine why they have been allowed to fade into obscurity when their deeds so richly deserve remembrance. One example of an unsung hero of history is Lewis Latimer. In his time, he was an inventor, draftsman, and author. He was born in 1848 and died in 1928. He was born into slavery in Boston, Massachusetts. His mother was a slave and his father was white. When he was 9 years old, his mother purchased his freedom with money she earned working as a seamstress. After being freed, Latimer worked as a janitor at the U.S. Patent Office. This gave him access to thousands of patents, which sparked his interest in engineering and invention. Working as a janitor also allowed him to attend night school, where he studied engineering and science. After the Civil War, Latimer joined the United States Navy, where he served for 6 years. While serving in the Navy, he invented an improved version of the limelight used in theatrical productions. He would take his invention to Thomas Edison, who was so impressed with the device he hired Latimer as his chief draftsman. Latimer would go on to work for many other prominent inventors and companies, including the United Wireless Telegraph Company and George Westinghouse. During his career, he would file more than 30 patents himself and help secure more than 700 patents for his employers. Despite his prolific work and success, most Americans have never heard of Lewis Latimer. One of the reasons he has been forgotten is the fact he was black, in a time when black inventors were routinely ignored or had their inventions stolen by white counterparts. A good example of this was the case of the Electric Light Company, which stole the work of Latimer and another black inventor, Granville T. Woods, and received a patent for an electric lamp socket. The U.S. Patent Office denied Latimer and Woods a share of the patent despite their superior invention, simply because they were black. Another reason Latimer has been forgotten is the fact he did not seek public recognition for his inventions. He simply wanted to improve processes and products and move on to the next project. As a result, there are no statues or public buildings named after him, and very little documentation of his life and work. But through the efforts of individuals and organizations, Lewis Latimer is slowly being pulled out of the shadows and recognized as one of the most prolific inventors in American history. A second example of an unsung hero of history is John Paul Mac Isaac. He was a sailor, cartographer, and explorer. He was born in 1792 and died in 1856. Isaac was born in Dedham, Massachusetts, but spent most of his childhood living at sea. His father was a sea captain and took his son on many voyages throughout the world. These voyages sparked a love of the ocean in young Isaac, which led him to join the United States Navy at the age of 15. While serving in the Navy, Isaac became friends with a man named Charles Wilkes. Wilkes would become an important mentor for Isaac, teaching him the skills of navigation and map-making. Together, they explored much of the Pacific Ocean, including the Hawaiian Islands and the coasts of South America. Through his travels, Isaac collected maps, charts, and other navigational information that he shared with the Navy. This information would help the Navy develop accurate maps of the Pacific Ocean, which would aid in the exploration and discovery of new lands. In addition to his work with the Navy, Isaac also worked as a privateer. Privateering was a form of legalized piracy, in which private ships were commissioned by governments to capture enemy vessels. Isaac's skills as a navigator and his knowledge of the Pacific Ocean made him an effective privateer. He captured many Spanish and Portuguese ships, which earned him the nickname Black Bart due to his dark complexion. Despite his accomplishments, Isaac's name has been forgotten by most Americans. One of the reasons for this is that Isaac was an African American, and most of his accomplishments came during a time when black sailors were not recognized for their contributions. Additionally, Isaac's privateering activities led to accusations of piracy, which may have tarnished his reputation and led to his name being forgotten. Finally, Isaac did not seek recognition for his accomplishments and instead preferred to live a simple life as a sailor. As a result, there are no statues or public buildings named after him and little documentation of his life and work. However, Isaac's legacy lives on through the many maps and charts he created, which are now housed in the National Archives and Records Administration. A third example of an unsung hero of history is Mary Edwards Walker. She was a doctor, a civil rights activist, and a spy. She was born in 1832 and died in 1919. Walker was born in Worcester, Massachusetts. She attended college in Ohio and became the first woman to graduate from the institution. She then attended medical school in New York and became one of the first Black women to receive a medical degree in the United States. After graduating, Walker returned to Ohio, where she opened a private practice. She also became involved in the local chapter of the American Anti-Slavery Society. In 1861, when the Civil War began, Walker felt compelled to help the Union cause. She traveled to Washington, D.C., and offered her services as a surgeon to the U.S. Army Medical Department. She was initially rejected due to her gender, but she persisted and eventually became the only woman to receive a commission as a contract surgeon during the Civil War. As a surgeon, Walker treated wounded soldiers on the battlefield and in hospitals. She also served as a spy for the Union Army, gathering intelligence on Confederate forces. Her work as a spy was particularly dangerous, as she was often disguised as a civilian and had to move around Confederate territory undetected. Despite the danger, Walker's work was vital to the Union's success. She was able to gather valuable intelligence on Confederate forces, and her actions helped to save many lives. After the war, Walker continued to work as a physician and civil rights activist. She advocated for equal rights for women and Blacks, and worked to improve access to health care for underserved communities. Despite her many accomplishments, Walker's name has been forgotten by most Americans. One of the reasons for this is that Walker was a Black woman, during a time when Black women were not recognized for their contributions to society. Additionally, her work as a spy was classified for many years, which may have contributed to her being overlooked. Finally, Walker did not seek recognition for her accomplishments, and instead focused on making a difference in the world. As a result, there are no statues or public buildings named after her, and little documentation of her life and work. However, Walker's legacy lives on through the many organizations that bear her name, which continue to fight for civil rights and social justice. So what can we do to make sure these forgotten voices of history are remembered? One thing we can do is to support organizations dedicated to preserving the history of underrepresented groups. These organizations often work to uncover and share stories of individuals like Lewis Latimer, John Paul McIsaac, and Mary Edwards Walker. By supporting these organizations, we can help ensure that these stories are kept alive for future generations. Additionally, we can also support initiatives that promote diversity in education. By encouraging schools to include the histories and contributions of underrepresented groups in their curriculum, we can help create a more inclusive and representative narrative of our past. Finally, we can also make an effort to learn about and celebrate the contributions of individuals from underrepresented groups in our own communities. By taking the time to learn about the stories of those who have been overlooked or marginalized, we can help ensure that their voices are heard and their contributions are recognized. I hope you enjoyed learning about these unsung heroes of history. If you want to learn more about them or other forgotten voices of the past, I encourage you to do your own research and explore the many resources available. You can also share your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on how we can better remember and honor these unsung heroes. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.